This is our adventure. This isn't our goodbye. Honey, we can start running. I can see the sun coming. Honey, we can start running. I can see the sun coming. Honey, we can start running. I can see the sun coming. Honey, we can start running. I can see the sun coming. Honey, we can start running. I can see the sun coming. Honey, we can start running. I can see the sun coming. Honey, we can start running. I can see the sun coming. Honey, we can start running. I can see the sun coming. Honey, we can start running. I can see the sun coming. Honey, we can start running. I can see the sun
Hi, my name is Matt Liebsch from Pioneer Midwest, and I just wanted to give you guys a heads up that we are one of the largest ski shops in North America, and we have an exclusive collection of race closeouts. So we've got a bunch of Rosinal, and we've got Solomon skis, and we carry Fisher, Machus, and Atomic as well. But since we're big enough, we can usually leverage our buying power with manufacturers, and we can get a bunch of race closeouts. So this spring we will have a bunch of options, and you'll be able to check those out on our website at pioneermidwest.com to check our selection. Hello, this is Matt Liebsch from Pioneer Midwest, and welcome to our shop. I wanted to let everyone know that by shopping with us and supporting us, it supports the organizations that we all love. So we're sponsors of the Berkey, the City Lakes Loped Foundation, and the Boss Loped, along with high school skiing in Minnesota and other states as well. So we thank you for your support, and we look forward to continuing supporting the Nordic ski community around the country.
Hi everyone, it is Sophie Caldwell checking in from a beautiful sunny Davos, Switzerland, and very snowy. I just wanted to wish you good luck in the Berkey today. I can't wait to be home some winter doing the Berkey myself. It's something I've always dreamed of. I know it's a little different this year, but I'm sure it will still be special, and I'm sending you speedy vibes and lots of luck.
Good morning and welcome to the 2021 Slumberland American Birkebeiner Ski Race. Here, as every year, in the North Woods of Wisconsin, in Cable, Wisconsin, we're here at Telemark Lodge. Typically, this race would run south all the way to Hayward, 57 kilometers to the south, But this year during the pandemic, we're doing a loop course. It's going to be an exciting race for sure. My name is Adam Verrier. I'll be your host, and thank you for joining us. This show was recorded live. We did an earlier version of this of the showing of the race. Dennis Cruz was the commentator for that as we were running the show live. But now this is a pre-recorded video of the race, and we see our start list here. We've got about 15 skiers among our seeded skiers, and when I get a chance, I will run through some of those skiers. We've got the skiers lined up for the start, and so it is certainly less than 5 minutes now before the start of this year's 2021 Slumberland American Birkebeiner. This is recorded live, as I said earlier, and my name's Adam Verrier. Welcome to northern Wisconsin. It's great conditions for racing. We had a few inches of snow a couple of different times a few days ago, and but that snow has been melted down a little bit with the warm weather we've had. We've had temperatures in the 30s for the last couple of days, and during that time, the snow has gotten skied on by hundreds of Birkie skiers and re-tilled by the grooming equipment. We're now down to a clean but partly transformed snow, and really just perfect conditions. It's got a little bit of a glaze on it. It's warm out today, just under 30 degrees by, at least according to the thermometer on my rental car as I came in. But we've got the starters lined up, and these skiers will be double poling for the first 50 or 60 meters, after which it's a skating free-for-all. This course this year is going to run out to Double O Road. It's about 21 or 22 kilometers south, and we are underway now. We will be following along with the snowmobiles in front of the skiers. We've got about 15 seated skiers, and behind them is the Elite Wave. The Elite Wave comprised generally of skiers who have done well in the American Birkebeiner, well enough to have moved into the Elite Wave, the top skiers in the field. And the seated skiers, these tend to be skiers that are skiing professionally or otherwise they're generally making their living skiing, or at least attempting to do so. On the start line today, I'll go through the bib numbers here. We've got, according to my start list, not according to who's in front of you on the camera, but we've got bib number 1 will be Ian Torchia. Ian Torchia starting skiing for Stratton Mountain School. He's a graduate of Northern Michigan University in Marquette, Michigan. Number 2 today is Johnny Hagenbuch. He's a 2-time World Junior Relay champion from Sun Valley, and he's from Sun Valley and lives there and trains there, and one of the fastest junior skiers in the world. Bib number 4 today is Tyler Cornfield. He skied for University of Alaska Fairbanks and now skis for APU. He was a 2018 Olympian, so we've got good skiers in this race today, and skiers with long resumes. Peter Holmes skied for UNH and skis for Sun Valley. He's wearing bib number 5 today. Bib number 6 is Logan Diekman. Bib number 7 is Sam Wood. Bib number 9 is Finn O'Connell. Bib number 10 is Carl Schultz. Bib number 11 is Scott Lacey. Bib number 12, Simon Zink. Bib number 13 is Jonah Steinberg. Bib number 14, Christian Gustaut. Bib number 15 is Brian Gregg. You see him over on the skiers' left-hand side with a light blue suit, past former Olympian. And bib number 17, another local favorite, and maybe the local favorite, Matt Liebsch. He won the American Birkebeiner back in 2009, and he is part owner of Pioneer Midwest Sports. And bib number 20, Graham Houtsma. So those are the top-ranked seeded skiers in the field. But, of course, the elite skiers skiing with the seeded skiers wearing those bibs that are numbered 1 through 20. We've just got the seeded skiers near the front. And now this course generally goes uphill for about the first 10 or 11 kilometers. Like all of the trails around here in the North Woods of Wisconsin, on the American Birkebeiner trail system, there's rolling hills everywhere. The terrain tends to be rolling everywhere you go. There's not a lot of flats, but there's not a lot of giant climbs. After all, we're not in an enormous mountain range. We're in the glaciated country of northern Wisconsin. And so while this trail goes predominantly uphill for the first 10 or 11 kilometers, you'll see these skiers going up and down hills throughout that period. Right in the front, that looks like bib number 6. That's Logan Diekman. and Logan Diekman with bib number 5 beside him, Peter Holmes. Peter Holmes skiing for Sun Valley Ski Education Foundation. The Sun Valley suits, like Peter Holmes is wearing there in bib number 5, the blue suits with a little bit of red and white along the bottom. The Stratton Mountain suits are the closest suit to you is bib number 1. That's Ian Torchia. He skis for Stratton Mountain. He's a graduate of Northern Michigan University, but now skiing for Stratton. One of the strongest teams in the country for skiers that are either in college, getting into college, or after college and trying to make it as professional skiers. And Ian Torchia is certainly one of the favorites here today. He's from the Midwest, but now living and training in Vermont. That's where Stratton Mountain School is. Back there, bib number 20, Graham Houtsma is wearing the black suit. And as I said earlier, Brian Gregg over on the left. Now these skiers at this point, you'll see them looking at each other a lot during this period of the race. Basically, these guys just want to make sure they don't get their poles stepped on and broken. They're looking to stay safe through this part of the course. But at the 2.5 kilometer mark, we're now on the power line. You can see them make the turn, and you see the power pole in the background. So they're now on the power line. And if you know this course, you know that there's some pretty big, sharp little hills going up the power line from this point for the next little bit. When they move off the power line, which is, I would estimate, about 1 kilometer from now, there is a sprint bonus. And this sprint bonus is worth $500 to these skiers. And so maybe the guys who are moving to the front may be looking to win that sprint bonus if they can. These are professional skiers. They're looking to pay for a plane ticket, maybe pay for some more spaghetti for the training, and so that $500 may go a long way. So when we that sprint preem or bonus comes at about the 2.5 kilometer mark. The kilometer markers are countdown markers here as we ski the Birkie Trail. So when you look off on the sides of the trail, you'll see kilometer markers, and the first ones should be in the 40s, but if you're watching those as you go along, they're not counting up, of course, they're counting down. This is approximately a 45-kilometer race out here today, with the skiers basically starting, you can think of them as starting at kilometer approximately 45 and working their way down to 0. The course is going to generally go uphill for about the first 10 kilometers or so, and then it's a lot of rolling terrain, and then the final 10 or 11 kilometers are downhill predominantly to the finish. You see, we just went by the 43-kilometer mark, so by my estimation, within the next approximately another kilometer or so, we should see these guys looking to win this sprint preem. You see Brian Gregg going to the front. He would certainly like to win that $500, professional skier. And beside him, he's got bib number 5. That's Peter Holmes from UNH. He's a very good sprinter. And bib number 6, Logan Diekman, also known to be a good sprinter. So Brian Gregg, considerably older than these guys. Brian Gregg used to ski for University of Alaska Anchorage back in the day. He's a former Olympian and one of the older guys in this field. Typically, we would expect the younger guys sometimes to have a little bit more quickness, but you see these guys, Peter Holmes looking left and right to see who's around him and see who's going to pick up this first sprint bonus. There is going to be a second sprint bonus. You see Brian Gregg looks like he is going for it. He's got that mask down underneath his chin, and Brian Gregg looking to pick up this sprint bonus. They've got a couple of meters on the rest of the field. Looks like it's going to be himself and Logan Diekman. And these guys are going to be, everybody else is going to let them go for that sprint bonus. And we can't see from here where it's going to be, but it's got to be within the next few meters because these guys look like they're going for it. And 100 meters now, less than 100 meters, and it looks like Brian Gregg is going to say, nope, it's not. It's going to be Logan Diekman. So Logan Diekman picks up the first sprint bonus, and occasionally you'll see these sprint bonuses break up the field. Somebody goes off the front. Nobody else wants to compete for it. They're saving their energy for the big win, and they let them go off the front. Sometimes the sprint winner will look over his shoulder and go, hey, I'm already 50 meters ahead. I might as well just keep going. But obviously that didn't happen today. It looks like they both, when Logan Diekman picked up that sprint bonus, he and Brian Gregg looked over their shoulder, just as cyclists do a lot in the big pro races. Look over their shoulder, wait for the rest of the field, and get back into the field. just as in cycling, it's a little easier to go behind than to go in front. So you may see as this race goes on, the leader opting not to stay in front longer than necessary. Ian Torchia, wearing bib number 1, he's in the front there with 42 kilometers to go. This trail is going to continue to generally go uphill, as I said earlier, until around the 11-kilometer mark. So Ian Torchia wearing bib number 1 and figuring, hey, if I'm wearing bib number 1, why not set the pace out here? It's a little bit easier to go behind for a couple of reasons. One, of course, being the draft. There's not the draft as there is in cycling, where you could get maybe a 20, 25, even close to 30% advantage in the draft, especially if you're going into a wind on the flats or a gradual downhill on a bike. But there is somewhat of a draft effect. So that is one advantage to skiing behind other skiers, especially skiing behind big skiers. But the other advantage that you get, well, there's a couple others. One of the other big ones is that the snow tends to, when you're skiing on snow, you're actually skiing on a vapor layer that's created when the pressure of the ski on the snow creates a vapor layer. And so the second in line, third in line, or especially 15th in line, if you're skiing on somebody else's tracks, sometimes that track is a little bit faster than just the fresh snow. You've got these sharp snow crystals out there, and if you can set your ski down, sometimes right behind somebody else's ski, especially in classic races, it really does make a difference to go behind somebody. So you'll see these guys trading off the lead as appropriate. Now in the lead, bib number 7 is Sam Wood. Sam Wood is originally from Maine. He skied for Middlebury. I think he graduated in about 2019. He's now skiing for Sun Valley. You can tell he's skiing for Sun Valley because he's got that blue suit on with the red and white legs. These skiers generally skiing for 4 teams with recognizable suits. The Sun Valley suit is that suit in front. Behind him, Ian Torchia has the Stratton Mountain suit on. I believe that the suit behind him is the BSF, the Bozeman Ski Foundation suit. And, of course, that's Matt Liebsch back there in bib number 17. As I said earlier, one of the favorites for today, local skier, one of the older guys in the field, and probably the oldest seated skier in this field. I think he might have been born in '83. In this field, that I know that sounds young, but in this field that makes him one of the older guys there, which we just go by the 41-kilometer mark, and we're also already seeing just a little bit of separation. Looks like bib number 7, Sam Wood, keeping the pace high. It's going to be different skiers with different strategies in this race. You're going to have some guys like I saw Tyler Cornfield back there. He must be about 8th or 10th place at this point. Tyler Cornfield with the blue and white APU suit. That's generally a blue suit with a little bit of black and white on the legs. APU, of course, being Alaska Pacific University. In fact, there he is, looks like 6th place back there. That blue suit with the black knees, that's Alaska Pacific. And Tyler Cornfield, an Olympian and multi-time sprint champion. I think if you're someone like Tyler Cornfield, you're looking to, if you can be in it at the finish of this race, you have a good chance to maybe pull it out at the sprint finish. Just again, I don't want to keep referencing cycling, but you got sprinters and you got distance guys, and just ahead of him, Brian Gregg in that light blue Team Gregg suit with the Team Gregg green hat. He's in 5th place. He might be looking to push the pace early. You might be looking for him to do that sort of thing. Being a little bit older, maybe he might feel like he doesn't quite have the sprint of some of these young guys like Johnny Hagenbuch, who just was in World Juniors, 2-time World Junior gold medalist in the relay. The American team has been skiing just fantastically, especially in the men's field in recent years at World Junior Championships. And Johnny Hagenbuch, a 2-time gold medalist in the relay for the U.S. team. So the U.S. ski team getting just better and better, especially with our young skiers. If you're Brian Gregg, you may not want to go head-to-head with somebody like Johnny Hagenbuch, who must be 20, 21 years old perhaps. But still in the front, taking a lot of turns at the front is Ian Torchia. Ian Torchia, great, really good distance skier, and he's got quite the resume. He may be looking to keep the pace high. You can see the group has really, we're down to 5, maybe 11 or 12 skiers as it breaks up. as I said earlier, there's an advantage to being in the group. And you'll see some of these guys at the back, they'll just be hanging on. As long as they can hang on to the group in front of them, it's not as dramatic as cycling, but you would like to be hanging on to the group. You know, the third advantage to drafting being behind somebody else, not only the aerodynamic draft and the advantage that you get from being in somebody else's ski tracks, but also I think there's the psychological advantage of seeing your competition right there, especially if you're in the back of the group. You can keep an eye on everybody. You can take a look around, see who's got fast skis, see who's got slow skis, and so it's there's really some tactics at play. So we'll be back in just a moment. We're going to take a short break, and we will be back in just a moment.
There's nothing quite like the heart of winter in North America's largest cross-country ski paradise. With 400 kilometers of groomed trails to explore, the opportunities are endless. Plan an adventure at visitcookcounty.com. Cook County, Minnesota is the perfect winter wonderland. Crisp, clear days, incredible amounts of snow, and miles of groomed trails in the Superior National Forest. Plan your winter getaway at visitcookcounty.com.
Everyone, welcome to the test lab at Pioneer Midwest. This is where we look at the fit and quality of skis. So we do pressure mapping and here, and then we do the flex testing over here. And I want to let you know that every summer we go ski shopping, so we visit the manufacturers to look for the best skis that they've made, and then we pair those up to our customers. So if you want hand-picked skis that are perfect for you, please contact us, and we'd love to get you on our list.
And we're back. Welcome back. My name's Adam Verrier. I'm your host here for the 2021 Slumberland American Birkebeiner. This is recorded live. We had an earlier version of this show that was live audio with Dennis Cruz, the other announcer. But I'm happy to have you here for the recorded live version. And on the front, I believe that was bib number 6 once again. No, it's bib number 9. Finn O'Connell, another skier, taking his turn at the front. Bib number 9 is Finn O'Connell. He skied for UVM, University of Vermont, now skiing for Stratton Mountain in southern Vermont. Right behind him is bib number 7, Sam Wood, another eastern skier. He's from Maine originally, skied for Middlebury, now skiing for Sun Valley. And another Stratton skier behind him, bib number 1, Ian Torchia. He's from the Midwest, skied for Northern Michigan, and now also skiing for Stratton. One of the strongest development teams in the country there, Stratton in southern Vermont, not far from the Massachusetts border. So we talked earlier about drafting. You'll probably see this lead group once they're comfortably into the race, and we've got less than 40 kilometers to go, so these guys are comfortably into the race. You can see that the front group has already broken away. The first 10 or 11 kilometers predominantly uphill out here. That's Ian Torchia, bib number 1, getting close to the camera. And as I said earlier, Matt Liebsch, you probably just saw him in the ad. He's one of the part owners of Pioneer Midwest. Matt Liebsch in there in about 4th place at this point. He's got to be one of the favorites out here, as he's one of the oldest guys in it, and he's always a threat to win this race. He did win the race back in 2009, hasn't won it since then. But you never know what's going to happen with Matt Liebsch. He's a strong guy, and in fact, just last weekend, I think he won a sprint in one of the marathons, and just pulled it out at the finish with a strong sprint. So just because you're a little older than the competition doesn't mean that you can't sprint. And I'll tell you what, in today's finish, the way this course is going to run, I can take you through it. We start at the regular Telemark Lodge at the normal start of the American Birkebeiner. But because of the pandemic, it was decided that we couldn't have bus transport. We couldn't have a lot of skiers all together packed into buses, packed into warming tents, packed together on in downtown Hayward on Main Street, which, if you're familiar with this race, you know it's a 57-kilometer race from Telemark Lodge south through the North Woods of Wisconsin, through Sealy, and ending in downtown Hayward. That's not going to happen this year. This year, it's a 45-kilometer race approximately. They're going to start in the same place, but to keep from having to bus people from one place to another, we have the finish is going to be at the same place as the start. So they're going to ski out on the Birkie Skate Trail, which is the same trail they would normally doing if we would be doing if we didn't have a pandemic. And they ski as far as what's called Double O Road. It's approximately the halfway point in this course. For the first half of the Birkie Trail going south, there is a skate Birkie Trail, which is to the west side. And parallel to it is a Birkie Classic Trail. They're not right beside each other. They sometimes are separated by a few hundred meters or so. But that allowed the race to be able to ski out to Double O on the skate trail, then make a U-turn to the east, and come all the way back down to the finish on the Birkie Classic Trail. So these skiers getting their one and only chance, hopefully this pandemic will be over before too long, and we'll be back to the regular course, but they are going to be skating backwards on the Birkie Classic Trail on Birkie weekend, which typically, of course, would be forbidden because you've got classic skiers skiing down that trail. This year we'll be coming into the finish backward on the Classic Trail. And there's bib number 4, Tyler Cornfield. I had mentioned him earlier. He's a former Olympian and a multi-time U.S. champion in the sprint. They come through the aid station there. None of these skiers choosing to take any feeds, as we call them, any aid. Some of these skiers may have, in fact, you see one of the Stratton skiers there getting a bottle from his coach. But these skiers generally won't take the feeds, probably. I see that most of them have water bottles around their waist. Tyler Cornfield does. Ian Torchia in the front, right behind him. That may be Scott Lacey, bib number 11. No, I'm sorry. That's that. Yeah, I think that is Scott Lacey, bib number 11 in third place. Scott Lacey from Bozeman. He was a Dartmouth skier, skis for Crosscut, and he is another professional skier. But you can see that this group is now down to a pretty small group, and it looks like it's mostly just the seeded skiers. I don't know if any of the elite skiers got into this group. Our seeded skiers are between bibs 1 and 20, and it looks like just about all of them are in that group. I'll try and look toward the back of the group and see if I can see any non-seeded skiers. Again, the difference being that the elite skiers are skiers generally who qualified for this wave through excellent results at the Birkie. I mean, these are fast, serious skiers. But the seeded skiers are going around doing this professionally. This is they're trying to make a go of it here as professional skiers. We've got Olympians in this group. We've got skiers that have been and will be skiing World Cup. And Ian Torchia, local skier from the Midwest, has been spending a lot of his time at the front of the group setting the pace. But you may see some of these guys who may be not feeling their fitness or a little or just knowing that they're great sprinters and wanting to save it till the end. There is definitely some energy to be saved at the back, but of course at the back you're at the mercy of guys like Ian Torchia here, who are keeping the pace high, looking over his shoulder to see what's going on when he raises the pace. And it looks like Ian Torchia may be looking to make a go of it early, string things out, and make sure that it's not a sprint. It's certainly not unreasonable in this course, which rolls up and down hill, to be able to get away. But I'll tell you one thing in this course that makes it a little bit tougher. As you see, we're going by the 37-kilometer mark. That's 37 kilometers to go. So we're about, how's my math here, 8 kilometers or so into this 45-kilometer American Birkebeiner. Typically, this would be 57 kilometers, as I said earlier, but this year a shortened course due to the pandemic and the changes that have had to have been made. You also may have seen at the beginning all these skiers were masked up. We've been racing for 3 days. The American Birkebeiner, which is typically a big one-day race with thousands of skiers in it, this year being spread out over 5 days. So we've got wave sizes throughout the day from about 8 a.m. until about 12:30 p.m. There are waves going out, and these waves have anywhere from only 5 or 6 skiers in the wave to 115, I believe, in the largest wave today. So we're trying to keep everybody socially distanced, and we're requiring masks in the start and all common areas. So these skiers, they're wearing buffs. Most of them are wearing buffs around their neck, like Ian Torchia. You see that buff around his neck so that he's able to mask up in the start area, and then as soon as they're out skiing, well, then you're on your own. You got to be able to breathe, so you can pull down the buff or the mask and be able to breathe out there. Obviously, as you can imagine, even if you're not a skier, it takes a fair amount of oxygen to do this kind of skiing for an hour 45 or 2 hours. I'm thinking this race it's got to be less than 2 hours with the caliber of skiers we have in the race and the snow conditions. As I said earlier, it's pretty warm out there. You can see the way they're dressed. I mean, they would always be dressed this way generally, but pretty warm out there. The temperature is probably right around freezing at this point, and it's only about 8:15 in the morning or so, maybe 8:30 in the morning. So the temperature's only going to get warmer, but these clouds may serve to keep the speed fairly high. With these warm temperatures, you get a glaze on the snow that really speeds it up, but it's been a couple of days since the last snowfall. We only got a couple inches, but that new snow has been mixed in by the grooming equipment in with the old snow, and that only serves to make the snow faster, because the snow crystals get ground down, the sharp edges come off the snow crystals, and the snow just gets faster and faster. So we see these skiers skiing on this corduroy. We call it corduroy snow because the grooming equipment leaves little lines in the snow. It looks like corduroy. But I would say that throughout the day, when you've only got 1,200 skiers skiing on a course where typically you have thousands and thousands of skiers, even the late wave skiers this year are going to have the luxury of having really good snow conditions and being out there, not necessarily skiing on corduroy, but skiing on something that's pretty close to it. It looks like Ian Torchia setting a high pace here today. Finn O'Connell, former skier from UVM and Stratton Mountain skier, looking like the only guy who's really that eager to go right along with Ian Torchia. The rest of the field still hanging on, and I see Tyler Cornfield back there, and some of the same guys. Matt Liebsch leading that group there. There's Tyler Cornfield in third place. I saw Matt Liebsch in there. So, with 37 kilometers to go, if these guys get too far ahead, looks like Tyler Cornfield making the decision or making the calculation that he better cover these guys and better keep up with them. You let these guys get too far out of sight, you give them 20 or 30 seconds, and who knows, you might not get them back. So Tyler Cornfield, again, with his sprinting resume, he may be looking to just make sure he's in it near the finish. This sprint, though, quite different from a lot of sprints. As I said earlier, we're coming right back here to Telemark Lodge to finish the race. It's not the typical finish to the American Birkebeiner, which typically finishes coming over the bridge down into Main Street and Hayward, and then you've got about a 350-meter drag strip, super wide sprint right up Main Street, which is covered with snow. They put snow all over Main Street, and you've got the width of the road to sprint about 350 meters up to the finish. But this sprint is quite different. You're coming off predominantly a set of about 10, close to 10 kilometers of downhill into the finish, maybe even more than 10 kilometers of downhill. It's not all downhill, it's rolling, just as is all the terrain here in the North Woods, but it's predominantly downhill. And so you then come at the 400-meter mark, you go over a little bit of a bump. With 200 to go, you go over a short, very steep, but very short, only 20-meter steep little hill that goes over the top of a pedestrian underpass. Come down off of that, make a sweeping right-hand turn, and into the finish. And the finish sprint is probably only 50 meters, and it comes off a turn. So you definitely want to be the first guy, in my estimation at least, you want to be the first guy over the tunnel with about 120 meters to go, because you're not going to pass on the big sweeping right-hand turn, and you're going to want to be in position. You've only got about 50 meters to go to the finish line when you come off of there. So it's this is not one of these American Birkebeiners where you can just come in a group of 10 and have just as good a chance of winning the sprint as everybody else. You're definitely going to want to have scoped out the finish and have a plan for how to come into the finish if it turns out to be a sprint. And it looks like Ian Torchia, spending so much time at the start, it looks like he does not want it to come down to a sprint. So we'll be back in just a few moments with more of the 2021 Slumberland American Birkebeiner.
Honey, we can start running. I can see the sun coming. Honey, we can start running. I can see the sun coming. Honey, we can start running. I can see the sun coming. Honey, we can start running. I can see the sun coming. Honey, we can start running. I can see the sun coming.
Hello, this is Matt Liebsch from Pioneer Midwest, and welcome to our shop. I wanted to let everyone know that by shopping with us and supporting us, it supports the organizations that we all love. So we're sponsors of the Berkey, City Lakes Loped Foundation, and the Boss Loped, along with high school skiing in Minnesota and other states as well. So we thank you for your support, and we look forward to continuing supporting the Nordic ski community around the country.
All right, and we are back. Welcome back to the 2021 Slumberland American Birkebeiner ski race. My name's Adam Verrier. I'm your host. This was recorded live. We did an earlier version of the show with Dennis Cruz as the commentator, but this group with Ian Torchia leading the way, but he's got a bunch of pretty comfortable looking skiers behind him, I'd say. We've still got bib number 9, Finn O'Connell, with him. It looks like he's wanting to make sure he stays near the front. Tyler Cornfield there in the APU suit, bib number 4. Bib number 12 is Simon Zink. Simon Zink skied for the University of Denver. He's a Colorado guy and making a go of it as a professional skier. Bib number 2 back there is Johnny Hagenbuch. I mentioned Johnny Hagenbuch earlier. Bib number 2, he is a two-time World Junior Champion in the relay, part of that string of that group of really strong young American men that have won a couple of World Junior Championship relays. So Johnny Hagenbuch, I think a guy really to watch today. We haven't seen him yet. He's been kind of hanging out back there. He's a young guy. I think it may be his first or second year as a senior. He's been skiing in a couple of the Rocky Mountain Intercollegiate ski races that have been going on in the east or in the west. He raced in Utah recently and had a really good result there against a very strong college skiing field. So Johnny Hagenbuch, bib number 2, I think a guy to watch out for today, especially if he's in it near the finish. But still, Ian Torchia just continues to relentlessly push the pace. The field spreads out as it does now. It seems like it does that on the downhills. It seems like it spreads out a little bit, and then when they get back into the uphills, it looks like it comes back together. Let's see if we can see any differences in skis here. We've got Ian Torchia at the front, And looks like these guys pretty comfortable. Not huge differences that we can see so far. We may see that more as the day goes on. The snow's pretty clean. Sometimes when you start getting big differences in skis over the course of a race, it's when the snow is dirty. You may be wondering if these guys are using fluorinated waxes, and I'll say that they better not be. They actually had ski testing. Fluorinated waxes are not being allowed at International Ski Federation races, and so these skiers will not have used fluorinated waxes. Fluorination is really good when it's wet, and there is a glaze on this track. The snow should be getting a little bit wet, especially in the second half. Not wet, but certainly glazed to the point that it would be helpful to use a fluorinated wax if you were allowed to do so. But the other place where fluorination really helps is in dirt. When you got dirty snow, old snow, fluorination really keeps the dirt out of the snow, and it keeps the skis gliding fast. I think that's probably the biggest advantage to fluorinated waxes, but the International Ski Federation is in the process of banning fluorinated waxes, and they are banned here in this race. So they were testing skis. They sampled some skis among the elite skiers that are in this field, but they send it into a lab. So if somebody were to use a disallowed fluorinated wax, we wouldn't know it until the race was over, because of course we've got to get those results back. We are now going in under one of the checkpoints here. This is just so that you can keep track of the race. On the app, we have a Birkie app. Bib number 14 now in the front is Christian Gestout, and he went charging off the front pretty hard. So Christian Gestout off the lead, and with a it must be 30 or 40 meter lead now. Looks like everybody kind of standing up behind him, saying, well, do we want to chase this guy down or take our chances letting Christian Gestout go off the front? And so he's now at this part of the course, we're going to get into we're generally going downhill at this point. And so the question, I guess, is, did he actually, it looks like he looks over his shoulder and says, oh, it looks like I'm going to be on my own. I'm not so sure I want to do this. He may have had faster skis. I may have faster skis. And maybe he said, hey, why not just take a flyer here and go off the front a little bit and see what happens. It did look to me like he looked over his shoulder and either saw that they were there and said, well, I guess this isn't going to work out, or maybe looked over his shoulder and said, where are you guys? But the group, you can see what happened to the group. The group is about half the size, or maybe 2/3 the size that it was before, and I suspect we'll see this throughout the race. Unlike the recreational skiers that are skiing further back in the field, where typically a winning strategy for a recreational skier in a ski marathon like this would be find a pace that works for you, go out, get close to the edge, to the speed that you think you can maintain for a few hours of skiing, or however long it's going to take to finish the race. And it looks like we got a broken pole in the back here. I'm not sure exactly what happened there. Actually, I think these guys at this start, I think one of these Stratton skiers may have taken the other skier's poles, and so it may be just that they're switching poles. You have poles that are set for your height, and I believe there may have been a mix-up, if what I saw was accurate at the start, with these two skiers getting each other's poles inadvertently, and maybe they finally just had a chance to hand off the poles and trade poles with each other. So these guys messing with their pole straps, the two Stratton skiers in the back. It's one of the disadvantages here when you're with a bunch of teammates and you got all the same equipment. If you don't have your name written on this stuff in bright pink, sometimes you get it mixed up with your teammates. But Christian Gestout still in the front, but as you can see, the pace coming way down. Looks like Christian Gestout really not interested in pushing the pace, and everybody behind him just saying, all right, fine, we'll take it easy for a little bit. There's Sam Wood in bib number 7. But the group now down to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can see the skiers that got dropped. It looks like they may come back on now that the pace has come down so low. Ian Torchia taking a look around to see who's with him. He kept the pace pretty high. It looks like, if I read that correctly, 22 kilometers to go. I may not have, I saw that at the last minute. I was busy looking at Ian Torchia, so I'm not sure exactly how far to go, but it'll only be about probably 2 minutes and 15, 2 minutes and 20 seconds before we get to the next kilometer marker. We've got kilometer markers everywhere along the way. This course profile generally shaped like a big M. You go uphill for about the first 11 kilometers and then gradually rolling downhill for a while until about the halfway point, at which point they generally they make a U-turn and start heading north. They're going south toward Hayward right now, but when they get to Double O Road, that's the place where a couple of things happen. They make a big U-turn to come back toward the start, where the finish also is located at Telemark Lodge. But there's also a 20-kilometer Matsu's sprint bonus. So it's another chance for these guys to pick up $500. So you probably see at least a couple of guys trying to pick up that $500 if they can at the 20-kilometer mark as they get to Double O Road. So these skiers on one of these downhills, a little faster than the snowmobile. There goes Brian Gregg, bib number 21 there. I'm not sure exactly who that was. It may have been one of the skiers in the. You've got the devil horns from Matt Liebsch. Matt Liebsch, local favorite from the Midwest, always a threat to win this race. He won it back in 2009. As I said earlier, part owner of Pioneer Midwest. You probably see their advertisements during the broadcast here as the snowmobile works its way back toward the front to get out in front of these skiers. On these faster downhills, these guys probably will hit a top speed of probably somewhere in the range of a little over 30 miles an hour on the fastest hills, maybe slightly more than that, close to 40 miles an hour. It wouldn't be often. I don't think these guys will go over 40 miles an hour at any point in this course, but that's Tyler Cornfield, bib number 4, taking the lead for the first time today. If I didn't miss anything, that's Tyler Cornfield taking the lead for the first time. He's also one of the older skiers in this field. He's from Anchorage, Alaska. Originally grew up in Anchorage. Went to University of Alaska Fairbanks, where he skied in NCAA Division college skiing. He's a former Olympian and multi-time U.S. national champion in the sprint. So it'll be interesting to see what Tyler Cornfield figures his strategy is. He certainly can win sprints, but he's also one of the older guys here with some experience. Now coming to the front and really, I think, easing off the pace here, Peter Holmes of UNH. He's been near the front a lot. Bib number 12 behind him is Simon Zink. He's the former University of Denver skier. And now skiing for Stratton, obviously, as you can see by the suit. There's really only about 4 or 5 teams in here. The sole light blue skier back there, Brian Gregg. If you're a follower of this race, I'm sure you know Team Gregg, Brian Gregg. Brian Gregg was originally from Oregon, went to University of Alaska Anchorage back in the old days, and has been a professional ski racer since then. He's also a former Olympian. And also a real threat to win this race. He's always a threat, just as Matt Liebsch. So probably the old guard here, you would have to say, are Matt Liebsch and Brian Gregg, both near the back end of this pack. But being in the back of the pack certainly doesn't mean that you're tired and running out of gas. The way I think I started to say earlier and maybe lost track, but if you're a recreational skier looking to race this race, a good strategy is find the pace you can maintain and just ski a steady pace from start to finish. But for these guys, there's a little more on the line. They have the capacity, the aerobic capacity to do it. And so these guys will go anywhere from going quite slow, pretty easy, to all out fast. And they will be making these decisions based on whether they think they can keep up with the group or whether they feel like they need to pull the plug, look over their shoulder, and sort of pull the parachute and say, well, I can't go with these guys. I won't be able to do it. So you'll see these guys making decisions perhaps to let somebody go in front of them, or to let the breakaway go in front of them. There we go, 30 kilometers to go. So we're about 15 kilometers into this race. So quite a long way to go. 30 kilometers should take these guys a little bit less than an hour 20 to ski. So if you're if you know what it takes you to ski 30 kilometers, you can compare yourself to these guys who they can do it in a little under an hour 20, maybe at this pace, an hour 15. But you'll see these guys go from looking pretty relaxed and slow. You see bib number 12, Simon Zink, pulling over to let somebody else take the lead. And as it's been throughout much of this race, that's Ian Torchia, willing to go to the front and take his turn at the lead. He's certainly led more than anybody else out here today. but different than you and I might do it, where we go out and find a pace that we can maintain. Even when the pace gets too hot, a lot of these guys will say, well, I've got to keep up. I got to just hang in there and try to hang on because the pace may slow down. As my friend Tomas Kolo, one of the coaches at University of Alaska Anchorage, says, if you can make it through the first couple kilometers in a mass start race, you know it's going to slow down. So you just hang on for your life for the first 2 kilometers, then the pace will come down, and then you're in. And then you can hang on until somebody else starts raising the pace. And today that person is being Ian Torchia, and he has managed to drop it looks like just about all of the elite skiers who are not among the seeded skiers here. Again, the seeded skiers wearing bibs between bib number 1 and bib number 20. And right now, bib number 9 in the lead is Finn O'Connell. He has stayed near the lead. Now he's in the lead. Right behind him, Simon Zink. A lot of these guys know each other from college racing. Finn O'Connell was a skier at University of Vermont. Behind him, bib number 12 was a skier at the University of Denver. Ian Torchia was at Northern Michigan University. So we'll leave it here for a few moments, and we'll be back in just a few more minutes for continued coverage of the 2021 Slumberland American Birkebeiner.
Welcome to the back shop at Pioneer Midwest. We are your one-stop shop for all things service. This last year we invested in a Tazari stone grinder machine, so we are doing grinds at the world-class level, and we've also got hotbox and all the wax needs that you could possibly think of. So if you're looking for a fresh tune or wax service, definitely let us know and we can help you out.
Start running, I can see the sun coming. Honey, we can start running, I can see the sun coming. Honey, we can start running, I can see the sun coming. Honey, we can start running, I can see the sun coming. Honey, we can start running, I can see the sun
All right, and we are back. My name's Adam Verrier. Welcome back to our coverage of the 2021 Slumberland American Birkebeiner. I'm Adam Verrier, and you're watching a live recorded video of today's 2021 Slumberland American Birkebeiner. We are in the middle of a pandemic, as I'm sure you know. There was a lot of discussion about whether this race should happen. The American Birkebeiner Ski Foundation has been thinking about it for about 11 and a half months, ever since the last time we ran this race, as of course the pandemic really blew up in the United States just after the 2020 American Birkebeiner. So these guys have been, the board members and the organizers of this race have been thinking about this for almost a year, and but we have managed to put the race into place with a lot of mitigation measures in place. And one of those, as it's a pretty warm day out there, but you see these guys with buffs around their neck anyway, because there was a requirement that all skiers be masked up in all common areas. All the way from the parking lot up to the start area, skiers were all required to wear masks, as is common around the United States and around the world these days. And we have much smaller wave sizes to try and keep people spread out. and the race is extended. What is usually a one-day race has been spread out over 5 days. In addition, there are virtual races. People are able to sign up for the American Birkebeiner and do the race in their home state on their own ski trails, and then send in their time for an American Birkebeiner finish. So a lot of creative solutions have been put into place to keep this race safe. But bib number 9 at the front, you see him pulling over to take a break. That's Finn O'Connell. Beside him, his Stratton Mountain teammate, bib number 12, Simon Zink. And behind them, Ian Torchia, who has been at or near the front for the entire race. And again, a guy to watch, bib number 2 back there, Johnny Hagenbuch, one of the younger guys. He's from Sun Valley, skiing for Sun Valley Ski Education Foundation. He's from Sun Valley originally, and he's one of that crop of young, very successful young American skiers, including guys like Gus Schumacher, who is one of the fastest skiers his age we've ever seen come out of the United States. J.C. Schoonmaker, who's been lighting it up on the World Cup. He's another 20-year-old skier, skis for University of Alaska Anchorage. He's over at the World Championships right now. But Johnny Hagenbuch, bib number 2, he's been skiing a little bit on the college circuit. He's not on a college team, but the Western college races, some of those are open to skiers who are not in college, and Johnny Hagenbuch with a couple of good results on that circuit, on the college circuit. It's one of the strongest circuits around. Very strong skiers on the NCAA Division I college circuit. We got another skier coming to the front here. That's Graham Houtsma, bib number 20, smiling at the camera by the looks of it, if that's what I saw. But Graham Houtsma, and he is taking his turn at the front. So this group now whittled down. Let me see if I can count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, approximately 15 skiers. Now there were only 20 skiers among the seated skiers. There were only about 20 seated skiers. We've got 15 in this group. In fact, there's a couple of missing bib numbers in there. So I believe that there were only 15 seated skiers at the start line. Here now, Matt Liebsch coming to the front. Matt Liebsch, now he's going to be a guy who is going to, I believe, push the pace hard. And I think when he goes to the front, it's going to be serious. And I think that when the rest of the field sees Matt Liebsch go to the front, and he's the only one there with that Pioneer Midwest ski suit, they're going to know who he is. And I think you're seeing it here. Everybody's going to try and make sure that they keep Matt Liebsch in sight if they can. Because I think that Matt Liebsch, being one of the older guys and one of the most experienced guys in this field, when he goes to the front, it's going to be serious. It's going to be on. You could see him relaxing before, giving us the devil horns there at the back of the pack as he was smiling and taking it easy. He's been resting up, and you can see the pace is higher. You can see that he's charging pretty hard here. Ian Torchia wanting to make sure that he goes with that move. He's obviously been keeping the pace high, and behind him is Johnny Hagenbuch with bib number 2. Behind him, another Stratton skier. I believe that's bib number 12, Simon Zink. He's been near the front the whole time. And then you got some of these other guys toward the back of the pack. You've seen Brian Gregg staying near the back for the last 5 or 6 kilometers. Kind of staying out of the wind. You know, when you're in the back, you can keep an eye on everything. But if somebody like Matt Liebsch goes off the front and starts getting a gap, it can be pretty tough to get that gap back. It's not like cycling where if the draft is broken, it's going to be really tough to get back in there. With 27 kilometers to go, though, the turnaround point at 00 is going to be somewhere around 20 kilometers. So we're about a third of the way into the race, more or less. And you can see some pace being put in, and then it relaxes when it doesn't work out. And you know, sometimes it's like trying to break away, like it looks like perhaps Matt Liebsch is trying to do now. It's kind of like trying to push over a big heavy rock or something. It doesn't always go on the first shove, but you got to keep pushing it and pushing it and pushing it. And you think everybody's keeping up, but if you keep after it, you sometimes don't realize how tired everybody is getting back there. On the other hand, sometimes it's kind of the opposite. You think you're tiring everybody out, and then you find out after the race that everybody was back there laughing because they really were not working very hard, and as hard as you thought you were going, nobody else was really having to make much of an effort to keep up with you. So that can be a little embarrassing. I've been on both sides of that one myself. But here's looks like bib number 20. That's Graham Houtsma. I believe that's a Bridger Ski Foundation suit. I think their suit has changed a little bit, but I think that's last year's Bridger Ski Foundation suit. There's Brian Gregg wearing the green hat, wearing the Team Gregg hat there. He's got a lot of experience here in this race and is always a threat to win it. But coming through these rolling hills, you see these guys kind of run into each other coming off the downhills. There's a little bit of a draft effect coming off the downhill, so if you're in the back, you tend to catch up to the guys in front coming off these downhills. The other thing that happens on these up in this rolling terrain here in this glaciated area of northern Wisconsin is that coming off the downhills fast really sort of it slingshots you right into the uphills. So where you and I might come into the uphill a little bit slower and have to climb, literally the entire uphill. If these guys come into the uphills going 25 miles an hour, by the time they really start having to grind away at the uphills, they have the advantage of already having skied a quarter or a third of the way into it. So, and that's even more of an advantage from the back. But at the same time, on the other offsetting that advantage of being in the back and having the draft, is you do get the accordion effect where every time somebody like Ian Torchia here wearing bib number 1 goes off the front, you're back there getting left behind because he's going over the top of the hill and he's going 25 miles an hour and you're still going up the hill going 15 miles an hour. And you can see this group, it still hasn't broken up, but sometimes it strings out a little bit when some of these guys like Matt Liebsch or Ian Torchia go to the front. You get some of these other guys that go to the front, but they don't really want to be there, and everything bunches right back up together. You can see Tyler Cornfield back there in the APU suit in about 5th or 6th place. Look like every time it spreads out a little bit, you get some of these guys saying, "Oh, I better get up there and make sure that I'm stay in this race." So this beautiful country out here. The other thing that I was watching one of those Pioneer Midwest ads just a few moments ago where Matt Liebsch is running a ski through the grinding machine. One of the biggest things, especially now that we do not allow fluorinated wax on these skis, is one of the biggest impacts on glide is structure. Of course, the most important thing is ski flex. You've got to get the skis that are the right flex for you. So if you're going out shopping for skis, you want to go to a competent ski shop that knows what they're doing and get skis fitted for you. These skis that all these men are wearing, no matter how big or small they are, they're pretty much all using the same length skis. So it's not all about length like we used to say back in the 1970s and 80s. It's now about ski flex. The skis are all pretty much a standard length, but bigger guys are going to want stiffer skis, and smaller, lighter guys are going to want softer skis. The flex is the most important determinant in how fast your skis go. And I can promise you all these guys have pretty fast skis, and faster skis than you're going to see on the recreational skier who's in Wave 4, for example. But the structure is really important, especially when it gets warm like this, because we're right around freezing, and when we get up around freezing, every time your ski glides over the snow, you're making a vapor layer. There comes Brian Gregg to the front. I would say that the pace is going to come up a little bit when Brian Gregg goes to the front. This is a guy who's going to want to push the pace and go it alone if he can. If he could break away and get away early, Brian Gregg or a guy like Matt Liebsch is going to be the kind of guy who's going to want to go away and be by himself when he comes into the finish if possible. So we'll see if something happens with Brian Gregg going to the front. He's been in the back for the majority of the race so far, so you'll see these guys making decisions about when they want to go to the front and when they don't. And these guys all know each other, so they know their strengths and weaknesses, and you'll see them looking at each other and making decisions about how they want to race this thing. But again, structure being really the most important factor when we don't allow fluorinated wax, but even when we do allow fluorinated wax, I think structure is more important than wax. And this snow is going to have a glaze on it today because it's quite warm, and so you've got water in the snow, and if you don't do something about the suction between the water and the snow, the vapor, and your ski base, you get suction, and the ski just won't, you can feel it. The skis just want to stop. So these skiers will have gone out with several pairs of skis this morning and tested structure and made a determination about which kind of structure they want on their skis. You see Brian Gregg really giving it here, and you see it's spreading out a little bit. Brian Gregg looks over his shoulder, sees he's got 15 yards or so, and in fact they've dropped a lot of the crew here. Oh, this is another sprint bonus, so Brian Gregg may be looking for, in fact, I guess that was the sprint preem. So they are now at 00 Road. They're at approximately the halfway point in this race. That was the sprint preem. Brian Gregg wins the second sprint preem, so it looks like he is not going to attempt to go off the front. But even though he was back there in 15th, 16th place, you saw how easily, when he saw the sprint preem coming up, the sprint bonus, he made the decision to pass everybody, go to the front. I should have been paying more attention. The sprint preem was there, and that's why Brian Gregg went to the front to pick up another $500. So we're about halfway through the race. We'll be back in just a couple of moments with more from the 2021 Slumberland American Birkebeiner ski race. And we are back. My name's Adam Verrier, and you're with me for the 2021 Slumberland American Birkebeiner. This was recorded live here. This is the pandemic version of the Slumberland American Birkebeiner. Spread out a little bit there when Brian Gregg went for that sprint bonus. He picked up $500 for his efforts, so that'll buy him the gas that he needs to get up here to Cable, Wisconsin from his home in Minneapolis. And maybe even a little dinner along the way. But it's coming back together. It looks like he did not go off the front. I don't think he wanted to go off the front. He's just looking to pick up that money. But that was the last sprint bonus that we'll see between here and the finish. At this point, these skiers have been skiing on the Birkie Skate Trail. If you're familiar with this trail, the American Birkebeiner Trail runs from Telemark, Wisconsin, in Cable, from the Telemark Lodge all the way down to Main Street in Hayward. But there are now two trails, and so if you're familiar with the old Birkebeiner, there was just one main trail, but we now have two trails. We have a skating trail and a classic trail. The reason for this, these trails only run to 00 Road, which is the halfway point in the race. But the reason for the two trails is so that we can run the American Birkebeiner with the thousands of skiers who are in this race, with all of the skaters skating on the skate trail, but still leave good classic tracks for the classic skiers, because in a typical year, you have the classic skiers and the skate skiers skiing on the same day on Saturday in the big American Birkebeiner with thousands of skiers. But this year, the race is spread out over 5 days, and today is all skating. Tomorrow will be all classic. And so the way the course is running is they are running out to 00 Road to the south, to the halfway point on the Birkie Skate Trail, and then they're essentially doing a U-turn, which was right after that sprint bonus that Brian Gregg won, and coming all the way back to Telemark, where the finish is. It's Ian Torchia pushing the pace here. He's continued to push the pace the whole way. Like I said earlier, this is like it's like trying to push over a big boulder. Sometimes you got to get it rocking a little bit to push it over. It looks like Ian Torchia looking to keep the pace high. It is a little bit harder to go at the front. Psychologically, it's harder. You can't see your competition. They're all back there looking at you, but you can't look back and see them. And of course, you're up there in the wind. We have a little bit of a tailwind coming into the finish. The wind has been coming a little bit out of the south. It's not a lot. Yesterday we had a pretty heavy wind, and in fact, you see some of the debris, the oak leaves, the branches on the trail. Yesterday it was blowing sometimes up to gusting to 20, 25 miles an hour, so blowing some of this debris out onto the snow. But you would not call the snow dirty by any stretch. We've gotten a couple of snowstorms in the past 5 or 6 days, each of which dropped 2 or 3 inches of snow, and so that has really kept things fresh out here, which is nice. When the skis get dirty, that slows them down more than any other factor out here, I would say. And so it's nice for these skiers not to have to worry about dirt, especially when they're not allowed to use fluorinated wax. The fluorinated wax is being banned for the main reason being that it's not good to inhale the vapors that come from fluorinated waxes. And when you get these professional wax technicians that are spending all their time all winter long, and for some of them even all summer long, waxing skis and breathing in those fluorinated fumes, really not good for the lungs. So fluorinated waxes it's also not good for the environment. So in Europe they've banned, they don't want fluorination getting in the snow, getting in the air, getting on the ground. So fluorinated waxes have been banned, and that makes the structure even more important. I was talking earlier about ski structure. What these stone grinders do, and you saw in the ads, Matt Liebsch actually running one of those Rossignol skis through a grinder. What he's doing is putting some structure into the ski base so that you don't have suction between the flat ski base and the glazed over snow that you're skiing on. Even at extremely cold temperatures, you create a vapor layer on the top of the snow when your ski goes over it. But it's much more so when you're, as we are today, at around freezing, maybe even a little bit above freezing at this point. It may be in the low 30s. Fortunately, we don't have the sun on the snow melting it even further, so we shouldn't have a whole lot of suction, not in a dramatic way, but still, you're looking to manage the water vapor. But if you look under Ian Torchia's skis when he skis to the side, you can see the corduroy underneath the skis. You can see sort of the that floaty look as the ski goes sideways over the corduroy here on the trail. He's the first skier on the snow. The skiers that are several hundred skiers back, the mid-wave skiers, they're going to have a lot more glazed conditions and a lot more effect of water vapor in the snow than these skiers who are in the first 15 guys here in the seated group. It looks like it's breaking up a little bit more. So Ian Torchia now he takes a look over his shoulder. Now he's yelling at his competitors like Johnny Hagenbuch, who hasn't gone in front yet, yelling at him, "Come on, man, help me out here. Let's do this thing. We're down to 8 or 10 guys. We're just going to give all this up." There's a group that's certainly struggling back there. It looks like Matt Liebsch is leading that group, who were a little bit off the back. But Brian Gregg still hanging on to the front group, but Matt Liebsch fading a little bit off of that group. And Ian Torchia having to go back to the front. He's not getting much help out here. A little bit now and then, but Johnny Hagenbuch looks like he may be leaving it. Actually, bib number 7 is Sam Wood, but another Johnny Hagenbuch in wearing bib number 2. But Sam Wood and Johnny Hagenbuch leaving it for the sprint, it looks like. These young guys just out of college a couple of years ago. Well, actually, not Johnny Hagenbuch. He isn't in college. He's just racing professionally. He's on the U.S. ski team at the moment. And so these guys wanting to leave it for the sprint. These young guys, I think they are probably pretty confident that they've got the spring in their step at their age to take it to the old guys. Not that Ian Torchia is old, but he is a college graduate, and I think Ian Torchia looking to make it a high pace and whittle down the field. The fewer guys you got with you in the sprint, of course, the better your chances. It's a numbers game like anything else. But we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It looks like 10 skiers now in the front group. So we had 15 earlier. It's down to 10 now. But every time the pace comes up and comes down, actually, it's a little bit slower now with Sam Wood in the front, and you see guys like Matt Liebsch back there. It looked like he was, looking at his heart rate monitor, looking at his watch back there. You see Brian Gregg back there, sometimes taking a few strides without pulls. They look like they're going pretty easy, but these guys are going fast, and it really comes all down to weight shift. You can see when these guys are skating from stride to stride, they get a long glide, and they look like they're pretty relaxed. As compared to the typical recreational skier who's trying to focus on balancing on each ski, and it's kind of a struggle to stay balanced. These guys, they do a lot of training. They're pretty accustomed to it, and there's some strength involved too. If these guys can just stand on one leg and glide, as Sam Wood is doing at the front of this group, you'll see these guys looking a lot more relaxed. Or Johnny Hagenbuch back there in third place, skiing without poles, just kind of standing up, taking it easy. Looks like they're not going very fast, but these guys are cruising along at they're cruising along at close to 20 miles an hour. They will finish this race in certainly less than 2 hours to ski 45 kilometers. So you can imagine that's pretty fast skiing. But the only way to be able to do this is to be able to be relaxed, to balance on each ski. And so if you are one of the later wave skiers or recreational skier looking to get closer to being able to do what these guys are doing, I'm telling you, it's all about weight shift and balance. If you've got the balance down and you can spend a lot of your time just gliding and not on two skis pushing, you're going to be far ahead of the game. And so you'll see these guys like Ian Torchia being able to take a drink and take it easy and take a few strides without using his arms because he's got good weight shift, good balance. And we've got 21 kilometers to go now. So from the 21 kilometer mark, we're going to really start going uphill a little bit to the final high point in this course, which is going to come in somewhere around, I would say, 11 or 12 kilometers to go, and from there it's going to be kind of a downhill into the finish. So if anybody's going to go off the front, and Ian Torchia keeps looking over his shoulder and telling his friends here, come on guys, what are we doing here? Am I going to have to do this by himself? But it may be that he's going to have to. If he's going to go off the front, he may have to make a harder charge to do it. We jump ahead a little bit. We've got Sam Wood, bib number 7, now going into the front. As I said earlier, he's originally from Maine, skied for Middlebury, and recently graduated from college and skiing for Sun Valley. But that's Ian Torchia. Oh, I'm sorry, we went back just a little bit. But Ian Torchia gesturing to his competition here, and looks like Johnny Hagenbuch not really having it. Not too interested in going to the front just because Ian Torchia tells him to. So Johnny Hagenbuch going to the front, but he looks over his shoulder, and as you can see, as they've spread out over the course, things really slowing down. So there's going to be certainly tactics in this race, maybe more than typical. We've had a lot of American Birkebeiners over the last few years in which we've had 10 or 11 guys in the sprint. On this hilly course, I don't think it should come down to that many skiers in the sprint, but at this point, we've still got 10 or 11 guys in this front group. So we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back in just a few moments with the 2021 Slumberland American Birkebeiner.
Hi everyone, it is Sophie Caldwell checking in from a beautiful sunny Davos, Switzerland, and very snowy. I just wanted to wish you good luck in the Birkie today. I can't wait to be home some winter doing the Birkie myself. It's something I've always dreamed of. I know it's a little different this year, but I'm sure it will still be special, and I'm sending you speedy vibes and lots of luck.
Hi, my name is Matt Liebsch from Pioneer Midwest, and I just wanted to give you guys a heads up that we are one of the largest ski shops in North America, and we have an exclusive collection of race closeouts. So we've got a bunch of Rosinal, and we've got Solomon skis, and we carry Fisher, Machus, and Atomic as well. But since we're big enough, we can usually leverage our buying power with manufacturers, and we can get a bunch of race closeouts. So this spring we will have a bunch of options, and you'll be able to check those out on our website at pioneermidwest.com to check our selection.
There is a place in northern Minnesota where summer is calling you to open up, to jump in through freshwater days and campfire nights, new trails and new adventures. Breathe deeper, dare bigger. Discover a place of pure colors and winding roads, village walks and summit views. This is where you feel free. Journey north to Cook County, Minnesota. Plan your adventure at visitcookcounty.com.
And we are back. My name is Adam Verrier. Welcome back to the 2021 Slumberland American Birkebeiner. This ski race being successfully run during a pandemic with a lot of mitigation measures put in place. We've got Johnny Hagenbuch now in the front. He's spent a lot of time in the 4th, 5th, 6th position, but Johnny Hagenbuch, one of one of the United States' promising young skiers, two-time gold medalist at the World Junior Championships in the relay, part of that strong group of young guys like Gus Schumacher, who's been lighting it up in the World Cup, and J.C. Schoonmaker, who's been really come on strong on the World Cup sprint team. Johnny Hagenbuch in with those guys, and he's been racing against those guys some on the Western region NCAA circuit in a couple of races earlier this year. But Johnny Hagenbuch now taking the lead. He's got Sam Wood behind him wearing bib number 7. Wearing bib number 5 over there is Peter Holmes skiing for Sun Valley. So all those 3 skiers in front of those are the Sun Valley suits. Behind him, Ian Torchia, who has led the majority of this race and who's been turning around and trying to convince some other skiers that they should take their turn at the front. Of course, there's an advantage to going behind. There's a draft. You can keep your eye on your competition. And bib number 4 is also in there, Tyler Cornfield. He's near the back of the group. Bib number 14 in there is Christian Gustaut. Bib number 10, Carl Schultz. We haven't talked about him yet today. Carl Schultz skiing for Sun Valley. He's a University of Vermont skier. And Johnny Hagenbuch, along with some other skiers, pulling over to, well, not pulling over, but pulling the water bottle out to take a drink, along with his Sun Valley teammate Sam Wood. Back there in bib number 9 is Finn O'Connell from UVM. We saw him taking a few turns at the front earlier. And I believe that's bib number 12 back there, Simon Zink, also skiing for Stratton. I believe that's Simon Zink skiing for Stratton back there, bib number 12. Bib number, right at the very back of the group there is Brian Gregg. Brian Gregg, the veteran, the wily veteran from Minneapolis, and skiing for Team Gregg with he and his wife Caitlin Gregg. Caitlin Gregg, of course, a world champion bronze medalist a few years back. But going back to the front in his usual spot, Ian Torchia. So we're getting into the point now where if somebody's going to break away, it's going to have to happen before too long, I think, because it looks like the skis are somewhat similar to one another. You can sometimes get a breakaway if you've got just outrageously fast skis. It hasn't been obvious that that's the case today, although if it warms up a little bit more, we could get into that situation. You tend to have big ski differences when you start getting a lot of water in the snow. That would happen if the sun comes out. It's high humidity out here today, but the sun really hasn't come out. You can see it's kind of foggy and kind of misty there. It's not outright fog, but there's a lot of moisture in the air. But if the sun doesn't come out and start warming this snow up, then I don't think we're going to see huge differences in the skis. Back there in the front now, bib number 7, he's taking a few turns at the front. It looks like he's going to push the pace. These skiers now will be going generally uphill. It's not all uphill, it's rolling uphill. There's ups and downs within it, but generally it's going to be uphill until they've got about 10 kilometers to go. So if you were going to try and get away, and it looks like Sam Wood is going to make his try at it right now, you'd want to do it going up to the 10 kilometers to go mark. But you wouldn't want to just be in front or be 20 seconds off the front. I don't think that would do it. You would need a solid 20 or 30 seconds at least if you're going to be able to get to the finish ahead of the rest of the field, because there should be an advantage skiing in a group on these downhills. There's 19 kilometers to go. So at this point, they're still kind of in the rolling hills, but from approximately, I'd say 14 kilometers to go to 10 kilometers to go, that 4 or 5 kilometers, there's a significant amount of uphill. And you'd like to be, if you're going to break away, you'd like to get a pretty good lead on the rest of the field. Otherwise, these guys may come back and get you near the finish. But this is not the typical American Birkebeiner sprint where they come across a lake for a couple kilometers. They've got lots of flat, gradual downhill onto a flat, coming across the lake, and then coming on a main street where you've got this drag strip, 350 meter long drag strip to the finish, which will allow, if 10 people come into the sprint, they've all got their chance at it. You don't have to be right in the front of the sprint to win that sprint. On this one, it's quite different. They come down out of the hills, out of series of rolling downhills into the sprint, and then around a very tight, short sprint finish. With 400 meters to go, they come over the last small roller. They would be going more than 20 miles an hour as they go over that roller, then into a final downhill when they've got 200 kilometers to go, or 200 meters to go, not 200 kilometers, 200 meters. They go over a new tunnel. It's a short, sharp, steep little hill, come over the backside into a big sweeping right that drops them off with 50 meters to go to the finish. And so you're going to come off that turn with momentum. You are definitely, if it comes down to a sprint, you're going to want to come over that tunnel in the lead. There's no doubt about that. And of course, there's money on the line, so these guys are going to be real motivated to win this race. We did finish. We had the 2 sprint bonuses. Each of those were worth $500. But for today's finish, if you win this race, you win $2,500. Second place is worth $1,750. Third place is worth $1,500. Fourth place is worth $1,000. Fifth place is worth $500, and sixth place is worth $250 today here at the finish of the 2021 Slumberland American Birkebeiner. So we are now, unless I missed a kilometer marker there somewhere, we're somewhere around 18 kilometers to go in this 45-kilometer race. This is typically a 57-kilometer race. In fact, there it was, the 18-kilometer mark. So we're not counting up through those kilometer markers. We're counting down, and Sam Wood. Bib number 7, Sam Wood, taking another turn at the front. He's one of the guys who has done a little bit of work at the front. Bib number 10 right behind him, Carl Schultz. We didn't see him much earlier. He's the top 4 guys, all skiing for Sun Valley Ski Education Foundation. Bib number 10 is Carl Schultz. He was formerly a skier at University of Vermont. Right behind him, Johnny Hagenbuch, definitely one of the favorites here with his finishing speed. And Johnny Hagenbuch has not seen any real need to lead very much today, although Ian Torchia has been trying to get him to take the lead more than Johnny has been willing to do. Right behind him, bib number 5 is Peter Holmes, the former University of New Hampshire skier, also skiing for Sun Valley. So Sun Valley coming to the front here. And that may have been back there in the blue suit with the one white leg. That may have been Matt Liebsch if he was wearing bib number 17, and it is actually. That's Matt Liebsch back in there. So Matt Liebsch is going to be another one of these guys. He's going to know this course as well or better than anybody. And Matt Liebsch may be looking to. I'm sorry, that was not. That's Matt. That's bib number 14, Christian Gustaut. And in fact, perhaps Matt Liebsch, I'm not sure if I see him in here. So Matt Liebsch may have dropped off the pace. Let's see how many guys we got in it. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Looks like we're down to about 10 skiers. So Matt Liebsch, unless he's in there and I'm not seeing him, he may have dropped off the pace. Leading right now is Carl Schultz. Carl Schultz skiing for Sun Valley, and former skier from for University of Vermont. And as he has been some, other than when it comes down to a sprint bonus, we've got Brian Gregg at the back of the hat. He's easy to see with that green hat and the light blue suit, skiing for Team Gregg. But it looks like the pace is pretty low now. These guys looking pretty relaxed. In fact, turning around, looking at each other, taking a look to see who's still in the group. There's certainly going to be some, the slide rules are coming out. These guys are doing calculations, trying to figure out who's in it. They're going to have a pretty good idea who's a better sprinter and who's more of a guy to watch out for the big breakaway. But you see these guys almost looking more backward than they are forward at the moment. Bib number 10 in the front, Carl Schultz, taking a look over to see who's still in it and whether these guys look tired or not. And they're not looking too tired to me, I have to say. On the other hand, we've got less than 17 kilometers to go here. On the other hand, we've been gradually losing skiers as we go along. So sometimes it looks like every time the pace comes up, maybe 1 or 2 guys drop off the back. The more this is whittled down, the less we'll have a sprint at the finish. But I can promise you that it's not going to work out well if we get all 10 of these guys coming into this particular sprint. This is the type of group of guys that could come into the traditional Birkebeiner sprint finish on Main Street of Hayward, and it could be a free-for-all between all 10 of these guys. But today, it's not the traditional finish. We're here at Telemark Lodge, and there's a couple of whoop-de-doos coming into the finish. It's a downhill rolling finish that comes into a pretty technical little tactical big sweeping right-hand turn into the finish, and the finish straight has got to be less than 50 meters. So it's going to all come down to positioning if, in fact, this whole group comes in together. And it may not, because we're coming into a long series of rolling uphills at this point, and they may be starting to get into that now, where we've got about 17 kilometers to go. And I would say we're into that part of the course now. So if somebody's going to put the hammer down and start trying to put the hurt on the rest of the field, this may be the place and the time to do it, because this may be the last chance if you're going to get away. To get away. So if you're one of these skiers who figures that you're not going to win a sprint against somebody like Johnny Hagenbuch or Peter Holmes or some of these fast sprinters, you're going to have to do something pretty quick. Once again, at this level, you see these guys generally either being in the group among these top 10, or else they've disappeared and they're no longer in it. These guys will tend to try to, every time the pace comes up, they'll do everything they can to hang on to the pace and take their chances and see if they can hang on. If they get to the point where they're way into the red zone and they can't hang on, well, then it's over, and they know it. And so it's kind of time to look over the shoulder, pull the plug, take a drink, and then struggle in the rest of the way on your own, or maybe with people who are coming and catching you from behind. But you will generally not see these guys just decide to go at a slightly slower pace and gradually drop off the back. You see Tyler Cornfield in the back of the field here, skiing for APU. He's back there, but he's, even if he's working hard, and I have no idea how much effort he's putting in, he may be back there relaxed, keeping an eye on things, or he may be on the edge and just struggling to keep up. But either way, he's going to do everything he can to hang on as long as he possibly can, because unlike the rest of us, who are going to be far better off just skiing our own pace and making our own decisions regarding pacing, at this level, it's all about going with the group as long as you can, and then hopefully putting together a strategy and a plan for winning the race wherever that may be. And you could go ahead even this early in the race and go off the front and find yourself out there in front and win this race by a minute or more. It's happened many times over the course of the American Birkebeiner, so it certainly wouldn't be the first time if somebody goes off the front. But it doesn't look to me at this point like anybody's really that eager to make it happen. So we may get 10 guys, or at least a large proportion of these guys, with lots of energy, having not really worked all that hard yet. We've seen Ian Torchia at the front, but it looks to me like he has said, okay, I've had enough of going at the front. I'm just going to slide in here behind Johnny Hagenbuch and wait back here for a little bit, and we'll see what happens near the end of the race. But right now in the front, that's Carl Schultz wearing bib number 10. That is Ian Torchia in third place wearing bib number 1. Bib number 2 is Johnny Hagenbuch. He's going to be a dangerous guy today. Bib number 5 back there is Peter Holmes. Bib number 7 is Sam Wood. These skiers all skiing for Sun Valley. I see Tyler Cornfield back there wearing bib number 4. Bib number 14 is Christian Gestout. And we've got another Stratton skier back there. Well, a couple of them back there. I think Logan Diekman, I believe, may still be in it. Although he may not be. That looks like it might be bib number 11. Scott Lacey, perhaps. They're in the back of the... No, that's bib number 12, so that's going to be Simon Zink. And bib number 9 back there is Finn O'Connell. And so along with Brian Gregg, who's back there, that's pretty much all the guys who are left. And I believe we've still got 10 of them in the group. And that's 3, 6, 9. I think there's 10 guys in the group now. So this group whittled down to 10. Again, the elite field started with the seeded skiers. Any of those guys in the elite field are eligible to win this year's 2021 Slumberland American Birkebeiner, but none of the elite guys have managed to go with the pros today, and so none of those elite wave field dreams are going to come true today, it looks like, as it's whittled down to only the professionals out here today, with only the seeded skiers in the front. So, and even there were only 5 seated skiers in the group, and I was wondering if we might have sort of a little-known elite wave skier coming in and mixing it up with these guys, but it looks like it hasn't happened. Right from the start, it's been only the seated field. And so these guys have been spending a lot of time looking at each other. It looks like Ian Torchia kind of coming up near the front again. But we're getting to the point where we only have a couple more kilometers that are predominantly uphill, if that, and then the pace is going to increase as these skiers are going to be generally coming back downhill to the finish. If you've got a course profile in front of you and can follow along, you'll see that it's about 11 kilometers worth of descent down to the finish. And by descent, again, we're not in a mountain range where you're just going downhill. This is going to be a rolling descent. But to these guys, and with the ability that they have to come into uphills with momentum, it really shortens the uphills when you come into these uphills going 30 miles an hour or more. So we got just 15 kilometers to go, so a little bit more uphill, but then it's going to be downhill toward the finish. And I will be very curious to see if anybody can get away in these downhills to the finish. It's rolling downhills. It's not just, straight downhill. It's going to be a lot of rollers. And so this would be the point. If somebody's got faster skis and then starts really pushing the pace and skating hard, something we haven't yet seen in this edition of the 2021 Slumberland American Birkebeiner. But if that starts happening, can somebody get away and stay away? It's going to be a risky it's going to be a risky finish for these guys trying to win this sprint, because it's going to be very, very tactical coming into the sprint. And I would think you might not want to be, you certainly don't want to be with 10 other guys. Then you have at best maybe a 10% chance of winning this thing, at least if you're looking at the numbers. But I'm not sure I'd even want to come in with 2 or more than one other skier, because there's really not room for more than 2, and really almost just room for 1 coming around that last sweeping turn, because you come into it fast. It's a big 180-degree sweeper that's pretty tight radius, so you really want to come in to the sprint in front. And I would say almost guaranteed the guy who comes over the tunnel first is going to win the sprint, if there is a sprint. And there may not be. There's still time for somebody to get away. You only need 3 or 4 seconds coming down these downhills. If you can stay away and be 2 or 3 or 4 seconds in the lead, that should do it. So Carl Schultz has been taking a little bit longer turn here at the front. So Carl Schultz looking over his shoulder, not looking like he's putting too much effort in here, just kind of wondering, what are we doing here, guys? Are we doing this or not? So everybody kind of looking at each other. And this group is not going to break up. I'm telling you, the group is not going to break up until somebody starts pushing the pace. We've got we had a phone going off in the background. We got Ian Torchia back at his place in the front. He's a local skier, went to Northern Michigan University, as he's got World Cup experience. All these guys in here have a lot of experience. We've got Johnny Hagenbuch going into the front, another one of the favorites. But I would say Ian Torchia, he has been skiing really strong, and he's been spending a lot of time at the front, but he is also going to be one of the strongest guys out here. That's why he is in the front. And we'll be back in just a couple of minutes with more from the 2021 Slumberland American Birkebeiner.
There's nothing quite like the heart of winter in North America's largest cross-country ski paradise. With 400 kilometers of groomed trails to explore, the opportunities are endless. Plan an adventure at visitcookcounty.com. Cook County, Minnesota is the perfect winter wonderland. Crisp, clear days, incredible amounts of snow, and miles of groomed trails in the Superior National Forest. Plan your winter getaway at visitcookcounty.com.
Hi everyone, welcome to the test lab at Pioneer Midwest. This is where we look at the fit and quality of skis. So we do pressure mapping in here, and then we do the flex testing over here. And I want to let you know that every summer we go ski shopping, so we visit the manufacturers to look for the best skis that they've made, and then we pair those up to our customers. So if you want hand-picked skis that are perfect for you, please contact us, and we'd love to get you on our list.
And welcome back to the 2021 Slumberland American Birkebeiner ski race. My name's Adam Verrier. Thank you for joining me. We are coming into what in cycling I believe they call the finale. We're coming into the final portion of this race, which will be predominantly downhill. Not all downhill though, because we're in Wisconsin. We're in this glaciated terrain where we've got rolling up and down hills. We've got Ian Torchia at the front of the pack, but this group has come down to 10 skiers in this group. And we started with 15 seated professional skiers, but another 100 or so elite skiers also in that wave. If you were with us at the start, you saw all those elite skiers. They've got just as much chance as anybody else to win this race, but we are down to only the professionals here in the front with 10 skiers. You see in the very back, that's Brian Gregg back there. In the front is Ian Torchia. Ian Torchia, former college skier at Northern Michigan University. In second place there is Johnny Hagenbuch. He has always stayed near the front, but rarely in the front. In the front has generally been Ian Torchia here in the Stratton Mountain suit. Behind him we've got, other than Johnny Hagenbuch, we've got Carl Schultz is in there in the black hat wearing bib number 10. Bib number 5 is Peter Holmes, his teammate from Sun Valley. And behind him is bib number 7. That's Sam Wood. And those four skiers wearing that Sun Valley suit. But Ian Torchia from Stratton Mountain in southern Vermont has been leading a lot of the race, and he's leading it now. And I think you're really going to start seeing things breaking up now. These skiers now we're coming down into the last portion of the race. There's probably only another 25 minutes of racing here, and so everybody is going to really want to be careful about being, I think, near the front toward this. In this part of the race, we see Tyler Cornfield back there from Alaska at Alaska Pacific University. He's making his way up from being the last guy in the pack up until about being the 6th guy in the group now. But Ian Torchia, you can see the way this he's increased the pace of his skiing, and so judging by the way he has led the majority of this race, I would say Ian Torchia is going to continue to do what he can to break this up. Now, as these skiers go into more down, everything in this course is up and downhill, but it's going to start being more downhill than uphill soon. And so the weather is gradually getting warmer throughout the day, and as the weather warms up and this snow starts to get a little bit warmer and wetter, we may start seeing some larger differences in the skis. I haven't been able to see big differences in the skis so far, but that may begin to change as the skiers approach the finish. We only have 13 kilometers to go now, so I think I said something a minute ago like we're less than half an hour, but we're not. It should be probably 30 minutes more or less to the finish from here, although this last 13 kilometers I think is going to go very fast as these guys start bringing the pace higher and higher and higher. And you can just see by the body language here with Ian Torchia, he's going to, if he can't get away by himself, if he can at least drop some of these guys, it just increases his odds as the group gets smaller and smaller. We've still got 10 skiers in the group. There's one of Team Gregg's. That's probably, it could be, that's one of Brian Gregg's family back there in the green hat. These giving Brian Gregg one of the last feeds. He's going to get a chance to drink here as they descend toward the finish line. But it looks like Brian Gregg just a little bit off the back there as Ian Torchia raises the pace, and you see the field spreading out a little bit here. We'll see if we can see any differences in glide, because I think this is going to make a big difference not only in the actual results here, but in strategy. If you see some of these guys, if they see that their skis are extremely fast or extremely slow, that is going to dictate to some extent the decisions that they're going to make. If they know they've got great skis, they may take a chance and try to go off the front, knowing that they can stay away because they've got great skis. It really doesn't look to me, though, like there's big differences. Again, as I said earlier, there's no fluorinated waxes allowed in this race this year. Fluorination has been outlawed by the International Ski Federation for their detrimental effects on health and on their pollution to the environment. So we see Tyler Cornfield. He had moved back from last place in this field up into about second and third place. So it looks like Tyler Cornfield making the decision that he'd better go to the front here and get up here where the action is. With 12 kilometers to go, much of it downhill, then I think we can be pretty confident that there's going to be a lot of action beginning now. So I think this is where really the excitement is going to start in the race, and you're going to see these guys doing a lot less looking around at each other and standing up and taking drinks, and a lot more charging hard and taking big skating strides as they look to see if they can make a breakaway and get away from the other guys, or at least put their competitors into the herd far enough to give them an advantage coming into the final sprint. The final sprint, if there is one, if there's more than 2 or 3 guys in the final sprint, it's going to be a little crazy. I'm telling you, it will be. I don't know if it will come down to that or if it can break up earlier. But I think if I were racing, if I were in this group of 10, based on my own experience, I'd like to be, hopefully, if I wanted to win this race, I really wouldn't feel that confident with more than just one other guy with me, the way this finish sprint rolls. And there is enough varied terrain as they come down into the finish that there is time, there are opportunities to get away, especially if you've got good skis. There could be some real opportunities to get away from the field as we come into the final kilometers out here today. So it's still down to 10 skiers. It may be down to 9 skiers now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oh, there's still 10 skiers. Brian Gregg is still hanging on the back. He's just been riding along back there for a few kilometers. But in the front, again, it is Carl Schultz leading it as he's been doing some lately. Right behind him is bib number 7, Sam Wood. Both of those skiers from Sun Valley. Tyler Cornfield has seen fit to move up toward the front to see what he can do about being where he needs to be in case there's some action here as we get closer to the finish. And, the other thing out here, we are now coming back toward town on the Birkie Classic Trail. We skied out on the Birkie Skate Trail, and I believe that trail is a little bit wider than the Birkie Classic Trail, so it gets a little bit narrower here on the Birkie Classic Trail than it was on the skate trail. We've got 11 kilometers to go to the finish. I went out last night and skied the last 8 kilometers of this trail, partly because I wanted to see if this was a double poleable course. As you may know, tomorrow we have a classic race out here, and there's been a trend toward double poling only in classic races. And I tell you, you would not want to come into the finish with kick-waxed skis and with glister on your skis with a bunch of guys that are double poling. So we've seen now bib number 7, Sam Wood, making a push here, and he's got a little bit of a gap on Ian Torchia. And at this point in the race with 11 kilometers to go, I think Sam Wood's probably going to want to see if he can make this one stick. It doesn't always happen the first time, but if you just stick with it, sometimes you don't realize just how tired those guys are getting behind you. So Sam Wood, he's originally from Maine, skied for Middlebury, now skiing for Sun Valley. Sam Wood putting in a push here, and it's breaking up a little bit. Looks like we still have the entire group, but it's getting strung out as Ian Torchia is 8 or 10 meters behind Sam Wood. And behind Sam Wood, behind Ian Torchia, Johnny Hagenbuch, he's looked pretty comfortable throughout this whole thing, and he's still looking comfortable now. It also looks like he's got pretty fast skis. You see him standing up behind Ian Torchia, and I think I might have to give the advantage here to the Sun Valley skis. I mean, there's not been dramatic differences, but it looks to me like Johnny Hagenbuch in particular, seems like on the downhills he's often stood up to catch a little air and slow himself down when he's been behind other skiers. Of course, there is that draft effect, so that's going to happen. But it looks like Sam Wood saying, nope, it's not going to happen. He was not able to get away. Ian Torchia going back to the front. Johnny Hagenbuch coming through there and actually still in third place. Right behind them, Tyler Cornfield from Alaska and Alaska Pacific University. And behind him, it wasn't number 6. It must have been bib number 9, Finn O'Connell, another skier skiing for Sun Valley. But Ian Torchia, and again, you're going to really see on this downhill if you're a recreational skier, as we go past the 10 kilometers to go mark, we've got Ian Torchia taking another turn at the front. He's been pushing this pace relentlessly throughout the race, but as these skiers are going downhill, you're going to see bigger and longer strides, and it's all about balance. If you are a recreational skier, recreational skater looking to get better at this sport, the best thing you can do is learn to have good balance and good glide, because every time that Ian Torchia in the front is standing on that ski, he's gliding, he's not doing much of anything, and anytime you're just standing on one leg and not pushing with your arms and not pushing with your legs, you're just getting free glide. And if you're doing it like these guys are now, going 20 plus miles an hour, before you know it, you've gotten to the end of a 45 kilometer ski race and have put in the least effort possible. So, partly the reason these guys can ski faster than the rest of us is through their all the work that they do and their fitness, but the other part of it is certainly technique. So we're going to take a break for just a moment, and we will be right back with more from the 2021 Slumberland American Birkebeiner.
Hello, this is Matt Liebsch from Pioneer Midwest, and welcome to our shop. I wanted to let everyone know that by shopping with us and supporting us, it supports the organizations that we all love. So we're sponsors of the Berkey, the City Lakes Loped Foundation, and the Boss Loped, along with high school skiing in Minnesota and other states as well. So we thank you for your support, and we look forward to continuing supporting the Nordic ski community around the country.
Welcome back to our coverage of the 2021 Slumberland American Birkebeiner. My name's Adam Verrier. Thank you very much for joining me for the final. This is we have uninterrupted coverage from here to the finish. They have less than 9 kilometers to go for this lead group of 10. We've got Ian Torchia leading it, Johnny Hagenbuch behind him. That's Tyler Cornfield wearing bib number 4. Bib number 7 behind him is Sam Wood, but we've still got 10 guys in this lead group with less than 9 kilometers, so it should be less than 20 minutes to the finish, and we will be bringing you coverage all the way to the finish with no interruptions, all the way across the finish line as Ian Torchia continues to lead the 2021 Slumberland American Birkebeiner. In case you're joining us late, you may be familiar with the American Birkebeiner, which is a 57-kilometer point-to-point race, which ends on the main street of Hayward, Wisconsin, in the North Woods of Wisconsin, but This year, because of the pandemic, due to a lot of logistical changes that were made to run this race safely, it's an out-and-back course starting the Telemark Lodge at the traditional starting point, but skiing up to Double O Road on the Birkie Skate Trail, then making a U-turn and coming all the way back to the finish at right back there at Telemark Lodge, the finish line right beside the start line, and these guys are generally going to be coming downhill into the finish through a series of rolling downhills through this glaciated country of northern Wisconsin. It's a beautiful day. The temperature is a little bit above freezing. It looks like the skis are fairly similar speeds, but as I said earlier, we'll see if Johnny Hagenbuch, what he does. There he goes, standing up again. Looks like he's got fast skis. Sometimes guys, he's got holding his hands up to slow himself down, maybe tell everybody behind him, let's everybody chill out back here behind Ian Torchia. And I think that the Sun Valley guys, this may affect their strategy. I think it can't not affect their strategy. If you're Johnny Hagenbuch and you see that your skis are running fast and you know that you've got some downhills coming into the finish, that's got to make you and your Sun Valley teammates think that there might be no harm in trying to get ahead in the final kilometers of this race, get a gap, and maybe you can hang on to that gap all the way into the finish. So that's Johnny Hagenbuch, two-time World Junior gold medalist in the relay with his teammates, his American teammates. Behind him, bib number 7 is Sam Wood, his Sun Valley teammate. And there's a third Sun Valley skier, bib number 10, Carl Schultz, in third place. And bib number 14, still in there, Christian Gustaut. He's been in the middle of the pack throughout this entire race. Ian Torchia back there wearing bib number 1, former champion of the American Birkebeiner Marathon. And looks like Brian Gregg moving into about 6th, 7th place, 6th, maybe 5th place. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, he's going to be in 5th place here. So Brian Gregg looking to get himself into the mix, but right now it's all Sun Valley at the front with Johnny Hagenbuch wearing bib number 2. He's had fast skis all day, and beside him, bib number 7. His teammate and his other teammate, bib number 7, Sam Wood, bib number 10, Carl Schultz, as this is still a 10-man race. And if we have all 10 of these guys coming into the finish together, it's going to be mayhem. It's going to be crazy because there's a couple of very short little hills in the last 400 meters of this race and a couple of big turns, kind of a wide, slow left turn coming into a sharp little hill over a tunnel, and then a big sweeping right into the final 50 meters. That's a pretty short radius turn, but I don't think it's going to go to the finish. We've got 10 guys here, and with all of the terrain that's here in the last 8 kilometers to the finish, I feel like it's got to break up. These guys are not going to want to go into the sprint together, especially if you feel confident you can win it. You don't want to take the chance of having all those guys come in together, because if they do, in my opinion, based on what I've seen out here skiing the course myself, it will be chaos in that sprint with that big sharp right-hand turn. You see, it looks like Tyler Cornfield back there in bib number 4. Looks like he's got fast skis. Of course, there's the advantage of being in the back. You do get the draft, and you tend to ride up on the other skiers. But I think these guys are going to start bringing the heat here as we near the finish, because there's enough terrain to do it. There are no long uphills. There's no long downhills. I went out last night and took a look at the last 7 kilometers. I went and skied it myself. I think I might have mentioned that earlier, but went out there and skied it myself to see what the terrain is like, and it was really remarkable how much this terrain comes downhill toward the finish. Not in a long downhill. We've got looks like we got a new pole here for Carl Schultz. No, that wasn't Carl Schultz. That was Sam Wood. Sam Wood picking up a new pole. I'm not really sure why. It didn't look like his other one was broken, but Sam Wood picking up a new pole there and fastening it on the back. He doesn't look too stressed about it. He's at the back of the group, and Sam Wood, bib number 7, looking like he's going to stay in it, but we've got Johnny Hagenbuch for the first time today looking like he's increasing the pace and looking to do something on the front. Up until this point, Johnny Hagenbuch looks like only going to the front when Ian Torchia guilted him into it. But this time looks like he's doing it of his own accord. And Johnny Hagenbuch, he's a strong guy. He could go off the front from here and win this race. In my opinion, from what I've seen this winter, I've seen him racing in Utah at one of the college races that I was at earlier this winter. And Johnny Hagenbuch really he's making a run for it here. He's got Ian Torchia, the only guy who is at this point looking like he's staying in contact. The other guys behind him looks like they're fading back. So Johnny Hagenbuch looks like he's putting all his eggs in this basket, or maybe he's not putting. Maybe he'll have something left. But Johnny Hagenbuch making a run for it here, and in my opinion, he ought to keep it going with 7 kilometers to go. Based on what I saw yesterday out on this course, doing my own run through, with the 60-70 meters he's got on third place now. Even if he could bring this down to a race between himself and Ian Torchia, he'd be in good shape. But Johnny Hagenbuch, I think, making a smart move here with 7 kilometers to put the pressure on. You'll see, as you've seen throughout this race, it turns back and forth, it goes up and down, and so there's a real advantage, I think, to being in the front here. You can choose your own line. You got nobody getting in your way, nobody stepping on your ski poles. It's all you. So Johnny Hagenbuch keeps taking a look over his shoulder. But it looks to me like, with the comfort that it looks like he's skiing away with, if he keeps this pressure on, it's going to be tough to get back to Johnny Hagenbuch. He's got the resume for it, 2-time gold medalist in the relay at World Juniors with this emerging young American men's team, arguably the strongest men's junior team in the world, the American team. And that is a first for us as a nation for sure. It's exciting times ahead, and Johnny Hagenbuch, a big part of that. Looks like it's starting to string out now. Ian Torchia back there, bib number 1. It looks like bib number 9 is, if I'm seeing it right, I think that's Finn O'Connell, if that's bib number 9. But Johnny Hagenbuch really putting on the pressure, and we'll see if he can stay away. It's for sure. It's definitely not a sure thing back there. We've got Ian Torchia back there. He's a strong guy. He's led the majority of this race so far. Ian Torchia, you know he's going to keep the pressure on and try to stay in this race. But there's still another 8 guys back there behind Ian Torchia that still, they are not out of this race by any means. Tyler Cornfield's back there. He's the lone skier from APU in that blue suit. You can't see him now, but he's just back around the corner there. He's a great sprinter, multi-time U.S. champion in the sprint, so he could come back. He did have fast skis. I see him just back there now. He's probably in 6th or 7th place. But Johnny Hagenbuch really putting the pressure on now, and he's dictating the race at this point. Everybody's got to go all out at this point. I'm sure that at this point nobody's saving anything. You just can't afford to with 6 kilometers to go. So Johnny Hagenbuch most likely putting all his effort into this move. This would be a great move if he can get away, and really if he can just get 8 or 10 seconds, he ought to be able to hang on to that, especially when these guys are strung out, everybody on their own, and he continues to build the lead. I'd say the lead now 7 or 8 seconds, and as he looks over his shoulder to see if Ian Torchia is back behind him, you should have seen him back there in that red suit, easy to see through the woods, but he's got at least let's see, I would say 6 or 7 seconds at this point, and that's significant. So we will see whether he manages to hang on. I think, based on what I saw from his skis, he will be able to stay away. He's a good skier. He's a very adept downhill skier, and there are no really technical, difficult downhills, especially where these guys are skiing on the fresh corduroy that they're skiing on. If you are a Birkie skier yourself and you come down these hills, in fact, if you're in the race and you watch this later, you'll see that you will remember that the course is kind of rutted by the time you're on it. But for these guys, of course, they're on perfect corduroy. You can see the corduroy underneath his skis, and but Johnny Hagenbuch looks like gradually putting more and more time on Ian Torchia. Ian Torchia is still second place, but he's got a group of skiers not far behind him. So Ian Torchia certainly doesn't have second place sewn up. nor does Johnny Hagenbuch have first place sewn up by any means. We still have about 5 kilometers, a little over 5 kilometers to go. We should see the 5 kilometer mark coming up soon. And if you figure these guys are going somewhere around 2 kilometers, 2 minutes per kilometer, we've got another 10 minutes of racing or so for these guys to get to the finish. There's the 5 kilometer mark right there. He's got a drink offered to him. He doesn't take it because, after all, this is the final push. Only 10 more minutes of skiing, maybe even less at the speed these guys are going. Because as you may know, a 5 kilometer would typically take these guys a little over 10 minutes. But we're going downhill, even though these skiers have skied 45 kilometers, so you'd think they'd be pretty tired. That is, of course, offset by the downhill terrain that these skiers will be coming into the finish with. So Johnny Hagenbuch putting on a clinic here. It's not over. He looks over his shoulder, and he's going to see these guys coming. He knows it's not over yet, and he's got some work to do here for the next 8 or 9 minutes. It still looks like Ian Torchia leading the crowd, but there is a group back there, and we may see them as the snowmobile unable to stay ahead of Johnny Hagenbuch as we're coming into the final downhills here, and Johnny Hagenbuch able to get a larger and larger group, a larger gap off this group. It looks like we've got 4 guys in that group. It's still led by Ian Torchia. Nobody else able to go to the front. And I wonder now if those skiers, even though there's still 5 kilometers to go, I wonder if they are no longer looking at Johnny Hagenbuch. Obviously, Johnny Hagenbuch's looking back at them. But they may be thinking, this isn't happening. We're racing for second. And, of course, second place would be great, but it's nothing like the win. Johnny Hagenbuch was taking it a little easy in the first 3 quarters of this race, now applying himself. And it looks like somebody else. I think I just saw a bit of a blue suit going to the front there. So it may not be Ian Torchia pushing the pace anymore. And, in fact, it's not. It looks like another Sun Valley skier coming to the front of the chase group. So they will, and they may be gaining a little bit on Johnny Hagenbuch at this point. In fact, I'm sure that they are. That may have been Tyler Cornfield in the blue suit with the black legs back there. But Johnny Hagenbuch continues to look over his shoulder, as he should, make sure that he's still leading this thing and see what the gap is, because that is going to inform his strategy to some extent. Although at this point for him, it's pretty simple. Keep the pace high to the finish. And now that they've got only 4 kilometers to go, it should be 7 or 8 minutes to the finish. And it looks like I don't know if these guys are playing with each other back there a little bit. I think that may have been Tyler Cornfield at the front of that group, the chase group. There's about 4 guys in that group. And if they're messing around with each other and not focused on catching Johnny Hagenbuch, then he is going to go ahead and win this race. Of course, they are going downhill. Anything could happen. Disaster could strike. There's no guarantee that Johnny Hagenbuch doesn't crash. That could certainly happen. This is skiing, after all. People do fall down. But Johnny Hagenbuch looking pretty confident here as he continues toward the finish. We've got less than 4 kilometers to go as we look back to see what's going on. And I do not see that chase group behind him. So Johnny Hagenbuch definitely does not either. And they are going to be coming. There's just more downhill. There are no major uphills. There is one little uphill, and this may be it. I think this is the really the most significant downhill with about 3 kilometers to go. This is pretty much the last of the uphills, and that was it right there. And he's back to V2 again, and he'll make his way into the final downhills. You see in the background, those were skiers going out, starting in one of the later waves of the Birkebeiner, so don't be confused by those skiers you saw in the background. They were heading out. They still had 42, 43 kilometers to go in this 45-kilometer 2021 Slumberland American Birkebeiner. So Johnny Hagenbuch looking to put this away. I don't think it's a sure thing yet. Those guys are still there. They could maybe do something, but they are running out of time. The gap must be at least 10 seconds or so. Johnny Hagenbuch looks over his shoulder, but I think maybe he had already crested the hill, so he may not have been able to see them, of course, as well as we can with the great video that we've got here. It's a little harder to see what's going on behind you when you're Johnny Hagenbuch and you're looking through a pair of sweaty glasses and your heart is going about 180 miles an hour as you're trying to go ahead and win the American Birkebeiner, the biggest ski race in North America. So it's certainly a big win if you can do it. So Johnny Hagenbuch has got to be pretty excited about what is coming together here. 3 kilometers now to go. And it is, again, mostly downhill to the finish. You can see he keeps looking over his shoulder, make sure they're not coming. He may have a little bit in reserve. If they do catch back up, he's going to know that they're going to have to work very hard to catch back up to him. And so that's why he keeps looking over his shoulder. You know, I remember in track and field in school, you're always told, never look over your shoulder, never look over your shoulder. But, I think in skiing and in cycling, there are plenty of good times to look over your shoulder. You got to know what's going on behind you, because Johnny Hagenbuch is taking a calculated risk by going off the front. He's gone as hard as he can to go off the front and try to break this thing up. He's got to know whether he needs to take more risk or not. If he looks back over his shoulder and sees that they're not right behind him, then it makes sense for him to ease off just a little bit and save something. Keep looking over his shoulder, make sure they're not coming, and then he can apply himself again. But if you push it to the limit and you're all just completely gassed, going as hard as you can go, it just increases the risk that you do something dumb on one of these downhills and ski off the course into the forest. It can happen. It wouldn't be the first time. So Johnny Hagenbuch, I think, being smart to keep taking a look over his shoulder and keep doing calculations about how close to the red line he wants to go, because he has certainly pushed it to get this gap, which has gone out to probably close to 20 seconds. I think you'll see him continue to look over his shoulder just to make sure that that gap is still there. There he goes, looking again, but I don't think those guys had come around the corner yet, so he should be pretty confident now that he is probably going to get this thing unless some surprise happens, and unless he screws it up somehow by crashing or something, which can happen. It's we've all done it. Put your ski put your pole between your skis. It can happen to the best skiers out there, and Johnny Hagenbuch has got to be telling himself to be smart and keep it together here, as there's only probably about 2 kilometers to go to the finish. That last 2 kilometers is pretty much downhill. I was out and took a run through on this part of the course last night, and it's a beautiful rolling downhill. As you can see, the North Woods of Wisconsin, it's beautiful country. There is, it looks like at the front of that chase pack, that is, I'm not sure who it is in front. I saw Tyler Cornfield in there, a couple of Sun Valley guys, but I'd say Johnny Hagenbuch is looking pretty comfortable. I mean, of course, he's going hard, but it looks to me like he is not struggling. He's not floundering. He looks pretty comfortable. As we were talking about earlier, he's getting good weight transfer from ski to ski, allowing him to do lots of gliding, less pushing and more gliding. And that's what it's all about in this sport, is efficiency and using only the energy you need to push yourself forward and not bouncing around between your skis and wasting a lot of energy putting it into the snow. So we've got to be coming up on the 2 kilometer mark before long. So Johnny Hagenbuch looking to put another thing on his resume if he can stay away. 2-time World Junior gold medalist along with his teammates, the emerging U.S. junior ski team, and I still didn't see anybody coming over the hill. So I think Johnny Hagenbuch must have this thing wrapped up. He was going a little easier in the first 3 quarters of the race. There's still nobody in sight. So Johnny Hagenbuch must have this thing wrapped up. The other thing that he had going for him was those fast skis. We saw him several times standing up behind Ian Torchia, who was leading, and Johnny standing up and looking to slow himself down just so he didn't run into Ian Torchia ahead of him. So Johnny Hagenbuch taking another look behind him there to make sure that nobody's coming. But he has got to have this thing just about wrapped up. I might have missed a kilometer marker maybe back there, because I think we're coming now very close to the finish. We will see markers at 400 meters, 200 meters, 150, but we've still got another kilometer or so before that happens at least. You see the trails coming in from the sides, meaning we're getting closer and closer to Telemark Lodge at the finish of this race. Beautiful set of trails here, which were used for the first World Cup ever. There's the 1 kilometer mark, so it should be less than about 2 minutes for Johnny Hagenbuch to get to the finish, and he should have a pretty good idea that he's got it wrapped up at this point. So with 1 kilometer to go, you go through a few rollers, kind of flat terrain, a few of these little uphills like he's going over right there, but no problem even after skiing 45 kilometers for a guy like Johnny Hagenbuch, who does a lot of training. He's in great shape, and he certainly knows how to ski fast, so he should be able to get through this last half a kilometer or so to the finish. Exciting times for him, applying himself at just the right time, going into the downhills, using those fast skis that he has today, and probably a good grind that he's got on those skis and some good wax, able to use that to his advantage as he comes now down into the Telemark Stadium. Off to the right here before long, the trail going out at the start of this race will be off to the right. To the left are the trails at Telemark Lodge. And we'll see more and more spectators. We're not allowing any actual spectators out here, but some coaches and officials that are out there to see the finish. But Johnny Hagenbuch now coming into the final turns. Now he's coming into the stadium. That is the start line back there. He just went by the 400-meter mark, so he has got this thing wrapped up. He's got about 300 meters to go now to the finish, and so he can ease off. And so now it's only a question of who's going to be second and third. They're coming into the stadium. It looks like it's a big fight now for second, third, fourth, and fifth. That's Tyler Cornfield in third. In second place, it could be Sam Wood, perhaps. But Johnny Hagenbuch comes over to the tunnel, into the finish, and it looks like he knows he takes a look over his shoulder. He knows that he has got this thing wrapped up. 50 meters to go, and he is able to stand up and just glide in. But the race behind him, it looks like it's going to be Tyler Cornfield, and I think that's Sam Wood, bib number 7. Sam Wood and Tyler Cornfield, as Tyler Cornfield is in the blue and black suit.
That podium, bringing home the payday, but it looks like the champion of the 2021 Slumberland American Birkebeiner. Here he comes, none other than Johnny Hagenbuch and here they come, second and third.
Holy cow, look at him come through. Sam Wood there, it's commanding second place.
Ian Torchia brings it back into the line as well.
And here's
Ian Torchia skiing for Stratton Mountain. Sixth place is bib number 14, Christian Gustaut, but it was all about Johnny Hagenbuch in the finish as he pressed the pace with about 10 kilometers to go, got off the front, and then there was nothing anybody could do about that. So a masterful race by young Johnny Hagenbuch. He's got to be, I think, the youngest seeded skier in the field, but showing his experience out here, knowing exactly when to apply himself to get this win in the 2021 Slumberland American Birkebeiner. So congratulations to Johnny Hagenbuch with yet another award to add in his young collection. He's got certainly some big ones. Here comes Brian Gregg. Brian Gregg with that distinctive yellow hat and light blue suit, skiing for Team Gregg, and Brian Gregg across the finish line.
Because the snow really flies.
Does it?
Oh yeah. You watch the footage.
And behind him is bib number 12. I believe that was Simon Zink. Simon Zink was among the leaders there early on until things broke up near the finish. These guys were all among that group of 10. Brian Gregg pulling his mask back out of his pants to put back on. And bib number 10 there, Carl Schultz, skiing for Sun Valley. Of course, this is these guys being reminded as they come across the finish line that they need to put their mask back on. Everybody in the background, all the the course workers, and even the athletes after they come across the finish line, putting their mask back on, trying to remain safe through this pandemic and stay socially distanced and masked up. There's bib number 5. That's Peter Holmes. Peter Holmes across the finish line. Another guy that could have been a real threat if he had been in there with about 10 kilometers to go, but he fell off the pace a little bit as things started heating up. So there you have it. Your winner today, Johnny Hagenbuch, the 2021 Slumberland American Birkebeiner champion. Second place, Sam Wood from the Sun Valley ski team. And third place from Alaska Pacific University, Tyler Cornfield. And so there's much more racing, many more waves to go out today, but among the elite and seeded skiers, you have your winners. The race is concluded as another great one, one of the more exciting finishes I've seen here at the Slumberland American Birkebeiner. So thank you for joining us today. My name was Adam Verrier, and I appreciate you joining me here for the 2021 Slumberland American Birkebeiner.
There is a place in northern Minnesota where summer is calling you to open up, to jump in, to give your spirit 2 million acres to explore. Savor freshwater days and campfire nights, new trails and new adventures. Breathe deeper, dare bigger. Let the moons remind you what's really important. Discover a landscape of pure colors and ancient mountains, hidden canyons and endless forests, where Lake Superior whispers and laughs. A place so vast that you'll need a lifetime to discover its secrets, and yet, somehow, it's like coming home. Follow the road, roam the wilds, wander the shore. This is where you feel free. Journey north to Cook County, Minnesota. Plan your adventure at visitcookcounty.com.
Welcome to the back shop at Pioneer Midwest. We are your one-stop shop for all things service. This last year we invested in a Tazari stone grinder machine, so we are doing grinds at the world-class level, and we've also got hot box and all the wax needs that you could possibly think of. So if you're looking for a fresh tune or wax service, definitely let us know and we can help you out. Hi everyone, welcome to the test lab at Pioneer Midwest. This is where we look at the fit and quality of skis. So we do pressure mapping in here, and then we do the flex testing over here. And I want to let you know that every summer we go ski shopping, so we visit the manufacturers to look for the best skis that they've made, and then we pair those up to our customers. So if you want hand-picked skis that are perfect for you, please contact us, and we'd love to get you on our list.